Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. I trust you enjoyed my video when we looked at the ELO Zoom album last time, and in particular the song State of Mind. And we also looked at Moment in Paradise, which is an amazing vocal performance by Lynne. And you probably notice in the titles of this particular video that we have a name change too. So the Electric Light Orchestra had now become Lynne's ELO. But there's a little bit that happened between the Zoom album and Lynne's ELO that we probably just need to cover briefly before we move on. And as I said last time, Jeff was well and truly becoming sought after as a producer and a songwriter. And we talked about the fact that after his Balance of Power album, we had people like George Harrison and Paul McCartney and Tom Petty. And then there was this little group called the Travelling Wilburys, which he was part of, and ended up actually producing together with George Harrison both of those albums and just adding on the other little extra bits that the songs needed at the time. So yes, he was very much establishing himself, I suppose, in his own right, doing what he loves, and that is stuff in the studio. One thing I forgot to mention last time was that in 1995, a cassette was found of John Lennon singing a song with him playing piano, and the thought of the Beatles reforming to do a song started to circulate around the world with much anticipation and excitement. Because although John had died a little while back, Paul, George and Ringo were still around. And so when they found this cassette, they thought, well, what do you reckon? Should we do this? And who should we get to do all the sound and production? Well, it wasn't long before Jeff Lynne's name was mentioned, I think. Pretty much because Jeff had done work with George Harrison. And so what happened over the next little while ended up becoming the songs Free as a Bird, and there was another song called Real Love, which they did as well. And there are some absolutely great memories that Jeff recounts about that time working with his idols, the Beatles. So that was something else that happened in 95. In 2002, 12 months after George Harrison did die in 2001, there was a concert for George, and Jeff Lynne was heavily involved with that one. There were people from all over. We had Prince, who of course can play guitar really well. We had Joe Walsh, who was from the Eagles. We had Eric Clapton. Of course, Ringo was there, and so there was a concert for George for 2002. And of course, Jeff was going to be asked to be part of that. In 2009, Kelly Grouchette, who was the bass player from 1974 through to 1983, he was extensively touring with the band ELO Part 2, which I talked about last time, a couple of times ago, who were keeping Jeff's legacy alive so well and so respectfully. He came back from a performance and he died of a massive heart attack in 2009. Bit of a sadness there, and my thoughts and well wishes to the Grouchette family, because he was a bit of a national, he was a bit of a treasure. In 2012, 2012, Jeff released another solo album, Long Wave, and in that album he tipped his hat to some of the songs that he grew up with, songs like She and Love is a Many Splendid Thing and Mercy and Smile, just some songs that influenced him, and he put his own trademark sound onto those songs. He also reproduced some of the ELO classics and compiled a compilation album. Actually, it's nice to just see those songs get a little bit of a makeover. In 2013, he and Richard Tandy, I think for the first time in a long time, actually performed in a Children in Need concert. I think at that time he did Living Thing and Mr. Blue Sky. Obviously those songs are really, really well known. And so he actually performed for the first time for a while ELO songs. And so maybe there was a bit of an anticipation starting to form here of something coming up. In 2014, he was honoured from his hometown of Birmingham, giving him a Walk of Hall of Stars, Walk of Fame type of acknowledgement. So he was acknowledged in his hometown of being a man of significant creative talent. In 2014 also, and I've shared some clips from this concert before, we had the BBC's concert in Hyde Park. Now Jeff he must have been doing some stuff behind the scenes here, because we had a completely new band. Now I think from memory, I think we've got 2 backup vocalists, we've got a drummer, we've got, I reckon there's 2 other keyboard players, and then there's the piano as a 3rd keyboard player. We've then got lead guitar, Jeff obviously plays guitar himself, and then we've got a bass guitar, and then we've got another guy who plays rhythm and acoustic, and I think he's like the musical director of the group. And so behind the scenes, Jeff had actually been practicing with a new bunch of people, and there are just so many people on stage here. And Richard, in this concert, Richard Tandy, who had been keyboard player for ELO for so long, was actually in this concert. So it's great to see him playing live. And so Jeff was expecting about, I don't know, a dozen people to rock up to that concert, and about 50,000 people came. Now, Jeff isn't really comfortable performing live, not that you would ever know. He much prefers studio work, but that particular concert really surprised him and really made him feel just so good, because people were remembering and acknowledging his beautiful songs. And so there had been a bit of a thing going on in the behind the scenes. We were practicing with a new band, and we were just imagining ELO performing again. Now, as I talked a little while back, I think in the Bluebird song from Secret Messages, I talked about the fact that sometimes things need to be parked for a while. Well, ELO was parked from 1986 to 2001. Then it was then parked again from 2001 to 2014. So it just goes to show that sometimes things just need to be put on the back burner for a while. Obviously, even between 2001 and 2014, the technology had increased and improved dramatically, where being able to produce ELO live on stage it was a real possibility. And obviously we've also got to talk about, when we talk about ELO, we've got to talk about the myriad of people that go behind the scenes, sound engineers, lighting, set design, all of that. There is a real team needed to put an ELO concert on. So that was a real, for me, I think for the world, that was a real turning point for ELO in this modern era. In 2014, also, America decided that they needed to celebrate the Beatles 50 years after their first iconic performance on American television at the Ed Sullivan Show. That's all over YouTube. It's worth just having a look at that one. And so Jeff Lynne was very heavily involved in that. I know that they asked him to do something the way she moves, and I think Joe Walsh and Barney Harrison, who is George's son, was involved in that. So, and then In 2015, Jeff was given a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I know that Tom Petty and Joe Walsh were involved in his acknowledgement of that. And so acknowledgement on both sides of the Atlantic, in Birmingham and in Hollywood. Jeff, I think, spends a lot of time in the US. He's got a house over there, and it's pretty much a studio. So he can just go into any room and perform and record. In 2015 also, he produced a Bryan Adams album. Now, I might go back to Bryan Adams after this series because there's some amazing songs on that album. Oh my goodness, one of these songs I heard, Get Up, I think it's called, absolutely superb. And so yeah, Bryan Adams gets the honour of having Jeff produce one of his albums. So I thought with all of this like activity, people were starting to wonder about a new ELO album. Could it be 1986 to 2001 to 2015? Could it be there was a new album? And sure enough, I don't know if you can see it that well, but we had Alone in the Universe released. And yes, we did have a new ELO album, or Jeff Lynne's ELO, as they're called now. And yes, Jeff did most of the stuff on this album. I think it's just easier for him just to do it. But a new ELO album. Very, very exciting. Again, for me as a fan, and I only found out about the release because of a Facebook group who was starting to get quite excited about this new album. So I did have a look around for it. And yes, it was easily bought in Australia, which is fantastic. So another album, 2015, Alone in the Universe. Who would have thought? And his music, songwriting and singing and everything is just as good as it has always been. He really does just have a way about him that works really, really well. And one thing I need to say about this album too is I think it's quite respectful of someone who is who's over 60 at this point, and producing songs that are appropriate for someone of that age. Some really, really beautiful songs on this album. There's a song on the end, Alone in the Universe itself, which is just a stunningly beautiful song. But the song I wanted to focus on today is the song When I Was a Boy. Now, when I was a boy, I could just get my words out sometimes. It's pretty much an autobiography of Jeff's dreams and visions for ELO. He talks about the fact that he didn't want a normal job. He talked about the fact that he wanted to play his guitar and make music, and the fact that when he was in bed, he would think about all these songs. And he had this vision and dream of something that he could create through ELO. And so it's a beautiful autobiographical piece. In fact, if you look at the video for this one, the official video, which I have got later today, you'll see how he talks about the days when there was just music and there was no money. I think he just loves making music. I think that's what he really loves to do more than anything else, is to make music. He talks about that. In the clip, you'll also see Respect to the Travelling Wilburys singing. You'll also see the rocking chair with the guitar. Well, that's a reference to Roy Orbison, who was around for the first of the Travelling Wilburys albums, but wasn't around for the second one. It's called Travelling Wilburys Volume 3, that album. He wasn't around, but Jeff has acknowledged Roy in that. And then there's the classic image of Jeff just playing the guitar on a stool. He and his guitar are one. And as I've talked about previously, Jeff isn't a look-at-me guitarist. He's a what can I do to make this song better type of guitarist. And so he's very creative and beautiful with some of the stuff he does. One song I forgot to mention when I was looking at the Secret Messages album was the song A Stranger There's some stunning guitar work in that. Go back and to listen to that one if you want to. So when I was a boy, when I think about this song, I think about the fact that there are people around us more experienced. Let's call them more experienced. They might be older in years, but they are more experienced in life. They have experienced things that I haven't experienced. They have seen dreams come to fruition. They have seen what it takes to succeed, what it takes to get on this world, what it takes to have a good relationship. There is much wisdom to be gained from those who are more experienced in years. But it feels to me at times often that we neglect this experience, that we neglect this wisdom of somebody who's been there, done that. I mean, we always want to know as human beings what the future is going to be like and what we need to do that. Well, we have a whole bunch of people around us who have experienced and have some wisdom to impart to younger people. I think of teenagers in particular, and I think, well, they're just not relevant. But you know what? There's some real wisdom, because these more experienced people in life were teenagers once. They know what it's like. They know what it takes to get from one place to the next. This journey that we call life. And I think it's really important to actually sit with an older person, get them to share their story, get them to share what makes them them. They're not going to necessarily want to do that, but if you sit down and have space and time with them, they'll talk, because older people love to talk when the situation is right. So I think the challenge to all of us is to take advantage and to really build up relationships with those that are older and wiser than ourselves. There's always someone who's going to be older and wiser. And so it's great to know that there are people around there like that. And I think we just need to take the opportunity to actually sit with these people and to be enriched by their experiences and life journeys. What an amazing world we live in to have these people with such experience. So I think the encouragement for all of us is to look for those, whether it's a grandparent or, dare I say it, parent, particularly when you're a teenager, or some otherwise person that you know. Just to sit and talk to them, because there's some incredible things to be learned for free about life and life's journey. And certainly with Jeff Lynne, I'm thinking with his song When I Was a Boy, really what he's doing is he's just talking about his values. He talks about when there was no money quite a few times in this song. And I think what he's saying is, look, music comes first, everything else comes second. If you get those things right in the right order, you can have a beautiful and enriched musical career, because you're connecting with your audience. And Jeff Lynne certainly is doing that, because there is a new generation of fans, like younger generation, that listen to his songs. Because one of the I suppose benefits of this 2015 album was that with his new band, he is touring extensively. And so I suppose there are people who are seeing Jeff Lynne for the first time, ELO for the first time, and experiencing some of these songs that he's written over a very, very long time, 45 years up to this point. So I trust that will be an encouragement for you today. Well, on to the clips today. We have just two versions of When I Was a Boy. We have the official video of this song, and that's the one where we've got the travelling wheelbarrows and, just telling the story of the song really, really well. I've also gone for a live version of this song as well. This is from the Glastonbury 2016 festival. Now, Glastonbury in England is a huge deal. It's a massive deal. If you get asked to play at Glastonbury, you know you've made it. And the fact that they asked Jeff to come back after all these years just shows the respect the industry has for him. And so you'll see When I Was a Boy played live at the Glastonbury 2016 festival. And yes, it's great to see Richard Tandy on the keyboards playing here. He sits on the piano basically on the stage near Jeff. So that's it for today. We've got a couple of videos to go for the ELO story. So until next time, I'll catch you around.